So anyone who's been around for a while knows that churn is always the biggest problem facing subscription businesses. For those who are new to the space, churn is what happens when your subscribers cancel. So you're left with a space in your revenue stream. If physical libraries were still a thing, then there would be tons of books published and dedicated on how to ensure that you never lose a customer. Hey, this is Zachary Alexander. I'm the host of the Subscription Maker Podcast Live. In this episode, we're going to talk about way you in this episode, we're going to talk about why you may want to not fire a customer, but why you may not want to keep every customer. Anyone who's been around for a while knows that churn is the biggest problem always facing subscription businesses. If you're new to the space, churn is what happens when a subscriber cancels their subscription. Your revenue stream is left with a hole. The money that you spent to actually acquire that subscriber goes out the window. So it's always something that you want to moderate. Basically what happens is that if the churn is too high, then there's no way to fill that hole. So if you lose like 5%, or if you lose 5% of your customers every month, then essentially you can't make that up. However, you still may not want to keep every customer. So what we want to do today is we want to explore this notion of customer success at all cost. So let's start with what is customer success? Customer success is a strategy for helping customers achieve their desired outcomes using a company's products or services. So basically what happens is success is about you finding ways to make your customers successful with your products and services. It's also a way of ensuring or basically generating growth with the same customer base. There are some companies who can get up to 70%, 75% of their growth simply by using the same or talking to the same people that they started with last year. They can basically, churn doesn't bother them because they provide additional services, and those services allow them to grow without acquiring new customers. Having said that, the real rock stars, just to show how important customer success is the real rock stars of the subscription economy are the CSMs. These are the people who build these long-term relationships with their customers. These are the people who find a way to convince customers that they need to stick around, that the company is reputable enough for them to invest more into their services. So if they've already bought a 10 pack, then customer success managers help the customers make the decision that maybe instead of splitting their services between two different vendors, maybe they should just stabilize and basically pick you as the winner. So you go from a 10 pack to maybe 100 seats. Or if it's a user thing where you're basically you're allowing people to take a class. Maybe you were training people, you had a small group of people who were taking, maybe it was one department of your company that was taking the class. And now, because of how well the class was, and the ability for the company to provide additional capacity to train your 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 salespeople, to train people who are doing lawn care. I mean, you can have a subscription for lawn care. So maybe you provide a service to the lawn care industry, a subscription service to the lawn care industry, and you find a way to broaden that lawn care industry and find um, additional customers or additional opportunities within the same lawn care space. Now, generally, you would think with all this going on that customer success should be about everything. So when it comes to what's important in your company, it's kind of a customer success at all cost. Don't lose a customer. Don't upset a customer. If this customer requires 100 hours of additional unpaid work just to stick around, then so be it. We want to provide the best service. And that makes sense. The problem is that when you do that, you burn out your people and other customers start to think, well, why aren't I getting that same kind of service? Why is it hard for me to get people on the phone because they're always talking to this other company and we're paying the same amount of money? So the way you fix this actually comes from a truism from service design. So you say, what is service design? Service design is the process of designing and implementing services that are fit for purpose. Now, it's easy to create a service which which basically allows you to check the box. I mean, I once worked with an organization that wanted to do an automated billing system. So they spent millions of dollars to do this billing system. Well, at the end of the day, they wanted to complete and show that they had completed the service. But instead of the billing system being automated, they actually said, well, we'll just set up a customer support room and then we'll have everybody funnel through that room. Yeah, it achieved the goals because they shifted the actual requirements, but it wasn't fit for purpose. It didn't actually achieve what they were trying to set out to achieve. At the end of the day, they didn't go from something which was they came from something that was semi-automated and they actually ended up with something which was more automated or which was less automated. And that's why service design is important. Now, when you talk about service design, there's something I like kind of like to think of as the service design caveat, which means you shouldn't provide a service to one customer without being willing to provide that same service to another customer under the same conditions. So if you will go out of your way, if you will send someone uh, in their personal vehicle, if you will send someone in the United States, New Jersey and let's say Georgia are quite a ways away, and and if you are like, okay, we want to keep this customer happy, so what we will do is we will pay our people to use their time off to drive from Jersey to the US or Jersey to Washington. And then someone in Washington will do a handoff and take it from Washington down to uh, down to Georgia. That's great service. But can you do that? Can you match that same service for everyone that you do business with? If you can't, then that's a problem. Because what happens once again, we start talking about customer success and the ability and upsetting folks. Everyone wants to talk about loyalty, but loyalty is also about treating everybody the same. So one of the things that we look at with service design is we want to ensure that we're providing the same level of service to every customer at the same, so you can have a different tier where you charge people a lot more. But once again, that kind of gets that can get a little dicey. You can end up with a customer that they're looking at someone else and they bought more, and they're like, they don't see the value. Well, the other customer does, but they're like, okay, we're in the same class of service. So I've got a web hosting, I'm purchasing web hosting from you, and this other company is purchasing web hosting from you, but they're getting a lot more value than I am. So they say, well, we've got the same class of service. If you can't say no, they've got a different product. They're in a different tier. They're in a different usage rate. Then it becomes a problem. So basically, the real issue is don't overextend. People you should be able to serve your customers without overextension. And you should be able to fire a customer, part ways with a customer, if the customer is not a candidate for expansion. Because expansion is how you actually grow a subscription business. Expansion is being able to sell more into your current customer base. Expansion is being able to find additional products that your customers will use, that will like, that they will value, and provide those in addition to your normal subscription. Expansion is the reason why customer success is not absolute. Because if you're spending all your time with customers who will not purchase additional services from you, you cannot grow. And eventually you will start to decline because there's no way to outrun the churn monster. Churn will eat you alive if you are not finding ways to expand within your current customer base. So, this is your host, Zachary Alexander. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Subscription Maker Podcast Live. You have a great day.